Hi guys, welcome back. We are on lesson 65. We're going to launch right into it today. We're talking about using proportions with, proportions with mixed numbers. So guys, when we have fraction equals fraction, that's my favorite because what we can do is cross multiply. So cross multiplying means we multiply the denominator of one by the numerator of the other. So that gives us 2, let me rewrite that. So it gives us 2 and 1/5 x equals this times this. So we get 4/9 times 1 3/4. And the only way to do multiplication with fractions with mixed numbers is to turn them into improper fractions. So friendly reminder, 5 times 2 is 10, plus 1 is 11. 11/5, we keep the denominator the same. X equals 4/9 times 4 times 1 is 4 plus 3 more is 7. 7/4. Now, when we multiply fractions, we multiply straight across the top, straight across the bottom. But first, cross cancel. Let's get rid of those 4s. So what I have now is 11/5x equals 7 over 9, right? Because when I crossed these 4s out, I was left with 1. So 1 times 7 is 7. And 9 times 1 is 9. Now guys, the operation going on between this 11/5 and this x is multiplication. The opposite of multiplication is, I was cleaning my kitchen, I just got flour all over me. Nice. The opposite of multiplication is division, but if I divide this by 11/5, I'm going to be back in the same area where I was with this, where I have this wonky complex fraction. Instead, we never divide fractions, we multiply by the reciprocal, meaning we flip those around. The reason, and what we do to one side, we do to the other. The reason we do that is because 11, 11, 5, 5, now that x is all by itself. X equals. Now, over here, there's nothing that I can cross cancel because these are all broken down. The 9 breaks down to 3 and 3, but there's no 3's upstairs to cross. So we get 35/99. That is our answer. Okay, so for the next one, sometimes we have these figures. Now triangles, no matter what size they are 180 degrees. Sometimes triangles can be similar, meaning they are proportional to one another. In this case, if all of the angles match, those are going to be some proportional triangles. This, and the way that we would do that is matching up. We're going to use those ratios or the proportions in order to solve for both x and y here. We're going to set it up this way. 2/5 equals, now see I did this left over bottom. I have to do left over bottom here. So that equals 3/y. Again, fraction equals fraction. I love that. You get these two things, which multiply 2 times y gives me 2y, equals 5 times 3, which is 15. Divide by 2, y equals 15 halves. Now, since we're measuring something, usually I'm okay with you leaving it in improper fraction, but since we're measuring something, that's kind of a wonky way to leave that. So why don't we say that it is 7 1/2. So y equals 7 1/2. Okay, so now what we can do is, how about 2 over, why am I drawing a blank here? Okay, so this over this would help, or we could do, yeah, we're gonna have to do, I was trying to find one where we didn't have to use that mixed number, but we do. That's okay. So we're gonna do 2/4. Oh, no, we don't have to. So left over right equals left over right. You gotta get those, it's really important that you get those correctly. You can't mix those up, okay? So in this case, we are going to multiply those guys. 2x, I don't know why it took me so long to look at that and figure that out, equals this guy, which is 12. Divide by 2, x equals 6. So x equals 6. So that's how you use similar figures, proportions, to find the shapes on similar figures. Now, there are no practice problems, but I want to do 14 with you. So go ahead and pause, pause the video, give it a shot, and then come on back. So if I do 10/7, that's going to equal 14/x. Cross multiply, we get this times this, which gives me 10x equals this times this, 7 times 14, 98. Divide by 10, x equals 9.8. Now, normally I want you to leave things in fraction form. The only time you can use decimals is if it started as a decimal or if it makes sense as a decimal. And this does make sense a little bit as a decimal because it's a measurement. We don't know what units they are, but we know that it's a measurement. So either way, I'll accept it. If you wanted to leave it as a fraction, you would need to make sure to do, to reduce this, right? So we would end up with, fraction form would be reduce this by 2 and this by 2. You would end up with, let me say, or 49 over 5, okay? So now we're gonna we need to get this guy right here. So if we do this over this, we would get 10 over 5 equals this over this, 14 over y. So we get 10y equals 14 times 5, 70. Divide both sides by 10, and we end up with y equals 7. Y equals 7. All right, guys, if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, great work, and I'll see you in class.